r/AskReddit. What is a true fact so baffling it should be false? The life of Frano Selleck, the luckiest and lucky man in the world. January 1962. Frano is riding on a train through a freezing canyon when it fell into an icy river. All 17 other passengers died while he escapes with a broken arm and hypothermia. 1963. On his first plane trip he was sucked out of the plane's door and landed in a haystack, unscathed. 19 other people were killed in the crash. 1966. He was riding in a bus when it skidded off the road into yet another icy river. 4 passengers drowned while he only received some minor cuts and bruises. 1970. His car's engine burst into flames while he was driving, but he managed to escape before it exploded. 1973. In yet another driving incident, his car's engine was doused with hot oil from a broken fuel pump. This caused flames to shoot through the air vents, singing off all of his hair. He was otherwise unharmed. 1995. He was hit by a bus but only sustained minor injuries. 1996. To escape a head-on collision with a United Nations truck on a mountain curve, he swerved into a guardrail that broke on impact. To save himself, he jumped out of his car's open door and grabbed onto a tree branch as he watched his car plummet off the cliff. Suffice to say, the guy had a complicated relationship with the Grim Reaper. Edit. Got his name wrong. You can boil water in a paper cup over an open flame. I thought witchcraft was outlawed. My dad showed me this when I was 4. Blew my mind. There are far more tigers in private collections in Texas than there are in the rest of the world, wild or otherwise. Switzerland has accidentally invaded Liechtenstein thrice in the last 50 years. On the first time in 1976, Swiss military got lost and ended up in Liechtenstein, so the Liechtensteiners offered them drinks like proper hosts. On the second time in 1992, Swiss military forgot that a certain observation post was actually not in Swiss territory but in Liechtenstein territory, so they just said sorry and forgot about it. Then again in 2007, the Swiss army got lost and entered Liechtenstein, but eventually realized they weren't in Switzerland anymore. Toto. So they turned back. Liechtenstein didn't even know this happened till the Swiss apologized again, to which they basically said, no problem, bro. Takeaways. The Swiss army are bad with directions. The Liechtenstein army people are chill brothers. According to Wikipedia, Liechtenstein doesn't have a military. It has a police force that consists of 87 field officers and 38 civilian staff, totaling 125 employees. Ireland was a net exporter of food during the Great Potato Famine. A morbidly obese person can survive with absolute starvation without any sickness or feeling ill, under close control. There have been studies since 60s. There is a patient in 1973 who went under a 382-day starvation diet for therapeutic purposes under close control with only vitamin and mineral supplements and water intake without protein, carbohydrate or fat intake. No food at all. Drop her from 207 kilograms to 88 kilograms and maintained it. After a follow-up checkup 5 years later, the patient was 96 kilograms. Stabilized. Prolonged fasting had no ill effects. If anybody is curious about the article, the PubMed is PMC 2,495,396. Keep in mind, for anyone tempted to imitate, multiple others attempted this after him and wound up dead. Do not try this at home. It requires very strict supervision. From what I remember, a lot of deaths are from when they start eating again. You have to start back extremely slowly. A toner cartridge is more expensive by weight than a B-2 stealth bomber, which costs $2 billion. And it would be cheaper to print with human blood than printer ink. TSA's fail rate is over 80%. I personally know someone who in his carry-on accidentally packed a loaded handgun, made it on the plane, and was so freaked out when he landed, he UPS'd it back home and took a Greyhound bus after his trip. I know a dumbass that flew internationally with a handgun in his checked luggage, on accident, but still a dumb a-hole. He left out of Florida heading for South Korea with a layover in Japan. The Japanese found it and he was arrested and spent over 2 weeks in jail. They let him go. A total friend of mine did the same with a folding knife. Giraffes eat bones. People were deliberately infected with malaria to cure their syphilis, and the man who developed this treatment, Julius Wagner Jauregg, received the Nobel Prize for it. The extremely high fevers of the malaria infections killed the syphilis bacteria. Then the patients were cured of the malaria using quinine. Quinine is the reason tonic water glows under black light. Today I learned tonic water glows under black light. Yeah, why the duck aren't we all serving gin and tonics at Halloween parties? Some of us are. Well, of course the booze witch is serving gin and tonics at the Halloween party. More people died making the V2 rockets during World War II than were killed by them. Another fun fact about V2 rockets. Germany was facing a large issue with rocket fuel shortages during the project because people kept drinking it. The fuel was made from 70% ethyl alcohol and 30% water, distilled from potatoes. It was the most economically viable fuel at the time, since they were already very low on other fuels. To stop workers from drinking it, they denatured the alcohol, essentially poisoning it, but people kept drinking it anyways and getting extremely ill. This simply caused people to start leaving the V2 program, suggesting that they were only in it for the free alcohol. This also means that any alcohol over 70% ABV is stronger than actual World War II rocket fuel. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater told his story on national television. Edit. Based on suggestions below, I'm proposing a new version of this factoid which makes it sound even crazier, but still factually true. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater appeared as a contestant on a nationally televised game show with Lucille Ball. The youngest mother to give birth became pregnant at 4 years old. There was this French guy named Tarrare in the late 1700s that could eat anything, in any amount. He was able to eat half a cow on one sitting and ate dinner for 15 for one meal when he was being tested. He was even able to swallow an entire eel, with bones included, without hesitating. When he went to the military service, they used him as message transport. But after being captured he went back and tried to find a cure. In the hospital where he was staying, he was suspected of eating a baby, so they kicked him out. He was average weight, and when he died a few years later they could see inside his stomach just by opening his mouth. Here's a video which explains it on better detail. Youtube link. They suspected him of eating a baby. He was caught multiple times eating corpses in the morgue if I recall correctly. Terror. Look at me. Did you eat a duck-eating baby? Cheetahs can't roar, but they can meow like house cats. Whoa, is this legit? Googling now. Edit. This has been the cutest part of my day. In chess there are over 9 million variations after just 3 moves each. 288 billion different possible positions after 4 moves each. In a complete game there are more possible positions than there are electrons in the observable universe. There is a theoretical possibility that a child can be born that has 2 biological fathers and 1 biological mother, inherits DNA information from 2 different men and 1 woman. Search for heteropaternal superfecundation and chimerism. For those who are interested. Edit. I'm talking about a form of chimerism which would result from heteropaternal superfecundation, where 2 eggs fertilized by different men merge and result in a single child. Edit 2. Tried to make the most less misleading. Sorry for any confusion. A million seconds ago was week before last. The 24th of July. A billion seconds ago was 1988. President John Tyler, born in 1790, has 2 living grandsons. A similar one I like is that there is a living person who is the daughter of a US Civil War veteran, at least as of 2017. And she gets to draw a Civil War veteran's pension. 50 cents a month, good living. Mike the Headless Chicken lived without a head for 18 months. BBC.com link. The longest time between 2 twins being born is 87 days. I see these threads a bunch, but this answer has me interested. Gonna look up the source on that one. Kilkenny, Ireland, gave birth to twins Amy Ann and Kate Marie. Katie Elliott 87 days apart, making them the twins with the longest interval between their births. The twins were born at Waterford Regional Hospital. Amy was born prematurely on the 1st of June 2012 and Kate followed on the 27th of August. Guinness World Records. Seems like that would be a shitload of stress for the unborn twin in the womb. as long as they are polyzygote, non-identical, meaning 2 placentas, 2 amniotic barriers, etc. Then yes, there was probably a crazy amount of jostling, but as long as the water didn't break, the second one is good to simmer indefinitely. If you earned $1 every second, it would take 2,921 years to have more money than Bill Gates. It's okay. I think I'll survive earning $3,600 an hour. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the silver. Yep, 31.5 mil a year's fine. Only 4 people have been to the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the ocean. One of those people is James Cameron, the director of Titanic. Didn't he make the movie Titanic as an excuse to visit the actual wreck? There is an extremely rare condition called Stone Man syndrome. It causes any smallest damage done to tissue to regrow into a bone. Speaking briefly, people affected by this sickness slowly turn into living statues as they get older. I saw a documentary on that once. One advanced sufferer had to explain to a young girl with the syndrome that at some point she was going to have to make a choice: be frozen forever standing up or be frozen forever sitting down, and the pros and cons of both. Utterly chilling. Edit. I have managed to find the documentary and have timestamped it to where her mother, not the kid herself, I misremembered, meets Robert Kinghan, the man I mentioned. Yowta link. As of 2016 she was still going, age 17, although the disease had progressed. Daily Mail Co UK link. What's the pro to standing? Sitting, you can at least get wheeled around in a wheelchair. Edit. Since this comment broke 1k upvotes, I decided to look into this. I found an article about one man who said he chose the standing position and is happy with that choice. He has a wheelchair he can stand in that also lays him into bed. Google.com link. Standing, you could lie flat, I bet too. Sitting, you could have a nice recliner though. Pooping would be easier too. Wikipedia. Surgical removal of the extra bone growths has been shown to cause the body to repair the affected area with even more bone. I'll never sleep again. Adult patients eventually have to decide on what position they wish to predominantly take for the rest of their lives. This was creepier for me. I'll take the coffin pose please, and if you could, just go ahead and throw me the duck in it because I'm done. Just make me into a coat rack. The Planck scale is the smallest known unit of measurement. If you were to expand a single atom until it was the size of the observable universe, about 92 billion light years in diameter, a single Planck unit at this scale would be about the size of an average tree. Yowta link. There were more planes destroyed in World War II than there are currently intact planes on Earth today. I mean, everyone was making a shit ton of planes. A shit ton of shitty planes. Commercial airliners nowadays are pretty sickened in terms of military planes. The dominant air force in the world is taking a quality over quantity approach, despite also having quite a few, but yeah. Edit. What I meant by shitty was vastly simpler designs that were more conducive to more quantitative production, because World War II in a lot of facets was a numbers game. Like they did the same thing with tanks. It didn't make sense to pour too much money into any given piece of hardware because it was just going to get blown up, since the technology didn't exist to prevent that in any way. These days, they can do that with planes, at least, because it's kind of hard to hit something that's literally going as fast as a bullet. Gotten a lot of responses about how World War II planes weren't actually shitty, and I agree. I was just using coarse language. Stalin, Hitler, and Freud all lived in Vienna at the same time. Imagine a sitcom with them all as roommates. Damn it, Stalin, stop eating my food. It is our food, Freud. I will stop eating it when you stop banging your mother. Will you to Untermenschen kindly shut the duck up? I'm trying to paint. I can't duck this up. This is my last chance to get into the academy. Top 10 anime tragedies. If you're launching from Earth, the most difficult place to reach in the solar system is the sun. The reason for this is that to fly directly into the sun you need to first launch from Earth, and then remove all of your orbital velocity around the sun. Anything less will just put you into a different orbit around the sun rather than directly into it. The amount of power required for that to do it directly is basically impossible currently. As an alternative, you could, for relatively little power, fly all the way out to Pluto distance, slow down much less, and then fall back into the sun. The trade-off being the travel time is now about 90 years. There are other in-between paths that could get you there for different balances of energy and time, but all of them are tougher than getting basically anywhere else in the solar system with an equivalent balance. There's a mission currently traveling to study the sun. The Parker Solar Probe. It won't be flying directly in, but plans to make the closest passes than any probe ever has. It's going to make 7 passes by Venus to shed speed so it can get closer and closer to the sun. The full flight time is planned as just less than 7 years. As of this post they are 1 week shy of a year in. The phrase plastic surgery has nothing to do with the material. Plastic surgery as a field predates the development of plastics by 70 years. The two terms simply share a Greek word root meaning sculpted or reshaped. Taser is actually an acronym for Thomas A. Swift's electric rifle. TASER. A 500-pound, cigarette-smoking, beer-drinking brown bear named Wojtek was enlisted in and served in the Polish army during World War II. Private Wojtek helped the Polish win the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino, and was even promoted to corporal. Following the war, he retired in Scotland. Amazing share. I will name my firstborn son Wojtek. From 1613 and 1620 a samurai traveled to Rome by way of Mexico. During this time, Shakespeare was still alive. Virginia had been founded for around a decade. Galileo was accused of heresy, and Pocahontas arrived in England. He met the Pope. He was made a Roman citizen. His name was Hisekura Tsunenaga, and was the last Japanese person to officially visit Europe until around 1860. Saddam Hussein was an erotic romance novelist in his spare time as the dictator of Iraq. Source. Is that why his character is such a romantic in the South Park movie? Come on, WWII. Whale reproduction involves 3 whales. 2 to do the nasty and 1 to keep them from sinking. Talk about third wheeling. If you shrink down our sun to the size of a white blood cell, the Milky Way galaxy would be equal to the size of the continental United States. Space is huge. When empty Everest was first measured it was exactly 29,000 feet. It was reported as 29,002 because exactly 29,000 was not believable. I'm picturing someone standing at the bottom with a tape measure and someone running all the way up with the other end. The color orange is named after the fruit. Before, the color orange was called red. This is why people with orange hair are called redheads. GPS satellites have to compensate for time dilation, because time runs at a different rate in orbit. There is no universally accepted definition of vegetable. It's a cultural and culinary term, and varies from place to place. If my son hates it, it's a vegetable. Problem solved. Greenland extends east of, west of, south of and north of Iceland. If sound could travel through space, the roar of the sun would be deafening even though it's 93 miles away. That shit makes sound? Yup, the sun is 290 decibels. If space could carry sound it would still be 125 dB by the time it got to Earth. It'd be like a jackhammer everywhere all the time. Of course if that happened we'd probably evolve to be deaf in that audio spectrum so we wouldn't notice. 17-inch pizza is bigger than 2 12-inch pizzas. Even if 99% of Earth's population thought you were unattractive, 76 million people would still find you attractive. So you're telling me there's a chance? Too bad those 76 million people never see me. Edit. WTF didn't expect so many likes. Thank you. You find 99% of them unattractive. For the remainder, either you or then are too nervous to approach or talk to each other. Spearfish, South Dakota, holds the world record for the fastest recorded temperature change. On the 22nd of January, 1943, at about 7:30 am, MST, the temperature in Spearfish was 4 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius. The Chinook wind picked up speed rapidly, and 2 minutes later, 7:32 am, the temperature was plus 45 degrees Fahrenheit, plus 7 degrees Celsius, above zero. The 49 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius rise in 2 minutes set a world record that still holds. By 9 am, the temperature had risen to 54 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Celsius. Suddenly, The Chinook died down and the temperature tumbled back to 4 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. The 58 degrees Fahrenheit or 32.2 degrees Celsius drop took only 27 minutes. Nintendo was founded in 1889. Before video games, Nintendo ran sex hotels in Japan. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. Thanks for watching, mate. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more high quality content.